Welcome to Empathy Corner, Conversations with Toad Counselling. I'm your host, Tony Matthews, and joining me today is Elle, who is a student counsellor, and we'll be talking about her journey and the impact of depression and anxiety. Hello, Elle, and welcome to the show. You're a new counsellor, and you've been doing it for a little while. You've done your level 2, your level 3, and you're now on your diploma. And you're in your second year?
Yeah, second year.
Okay, so what is it that has made you decide to go into work as a therapist or counsellor?
I think for me, it was a few years ago that I had my own counselling.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through quite a few struggles in my life at the time and decided to finally reach out to get some support. I was talking to friends a lot about how I was feeling, how I was coping, but just kept going around in circles in my own thoughts and kept talking to people about it, but not actually. I felt like I was boring people and not being able to move forward.
Yeah.
So reached out to a counsellor, and it was the best thing I ever done. She helped me to break my thoughts down. And there was a huge light bulb moment that went off, and everything kind of fitted into place for me.
Yeah.
I found myself again in what seemed like had been like years of struggling. I don't know how she quite done it. It was amazing. So from that, after doing that, I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to help people come to that realisation within themselves, that they don't have to be stuck in that cycle of repetitive kind of anxiety, worry, fear, depression, everything really, where it just spirals out of control, where you think, well, what's my future hold when I'm just like this all the time? So I think, yeah, definitely from having counselling myself, that is what put me onto the path from wanting to become a counsellor, so that I can give back, hopefully, a little bit of that skill set to people, and then hopefully have some light bulb moments for people.
Fabulous. You mentioned you were looking for a therapist.
Yeah.
And did you say that came from other people and friends that suggested that?
Yeah, probably a few of them did. I'm just trying to think back that I think I was just on I was so focused on these ruminating thoughts that the fear for the future, it was such a scary place, and moments where I was so stuck in my own head, where I just kept on and on and on talking about it to friends. And yeah, I think probably a few of them did say, you know, you need to talk to somebody about this. But essentially it took me to get to that point of myself to actually think, well, I'm going to look on a website and see what's available to me, because I can't keep on like this.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question actually, was looking for a therapist. How did you go about trying to find one? Because, you know, some people don't know where to go or how to look for a therapist or anything like that. So can you give us a rundown as to what it is that you did to find the therapist that you went with?
Yeah, I think I just kind of put it in Google, because you can do everything on your phone now. What can help me with my thoughts of the future? Why am I feeling like this? And everything that I was typing in. And then I think it was one day just it came up, speak to a counsellor. It just came up with counselling, and I thought, well, that was kind of the answer there. So then it directed me to counsellors near me. So I put in my postcode, and then it directed me to the BACP website.
Okay.
So I went onto there, and I just looked through counsellors in and around where I live.
Yeah.
And I could see pictures of them, which was ideal because you can be automatically drawn to some people than others.
Yeah.
And kind of a little bit of information about these people, what they specialise in, and I just kind of went from there. I saw one, read a bit of information about it. I thought, I need you in my life at the moment. But yeah, it was through Googling, you know, I need to speak to somebody, why am I having these thoughts, that counselling kind of came up for me. But before that, I didn't, you know, I suppose friends had suggested it, but I needed to get to that point of seeking it out for myself rather than being told.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You needed to realise there was something that you needed to do rather than what was suggested by other people.
Yeah. So that's how I found it, just by Googling, and then luckily finding the website there, the BACP, to look for a therapist, and that's how it all began.
Did you go through many of them? And I know there's descriptions and how they work and all that sort of stuff. Did you go through many, or
no,
was it just scrolling through and you found the one that you liked?
Yeah, so I think I probably went through 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But the lady who I still actually speak to now, just something about her face, just a kind, lovely smile. I don't know, I was just drawn to her. And then reading her information, I was just like, I hope that you get back to me. And I was so lucky that I literally went through 2 or 3. I didn't even...
Was that you contacted 2 or 3, or you just scrolled through 2 or 3?
I just contacted her. Yeah,
okay.
Scrolled through 2 or 3, and then I just contacted her, and she replied to me. And that was probably going back a good 5-6 years ago.
Wow.
And I still see her now and again.
Yeah.
Obviously, as part of my diploma course, to become a qualified counsellor, you have to do the 10 hours of counselling therapy for myself.
The requirement, yeah. My
requirement. But I find that I will message her just out of the blue when I'm feeling things are just getting on top of me, and I'd go in and see her for an hour, and I just come out of there thinking, oh wow, that wasn't as bad as what it's not as bad as I think now, because I've dealt with so much with her and explored who I actually am, that when I go and see her now, it's kind of like a top up of actually, I know who I am, I know my core belief, and she just helps me to kind of regulate that, I suppose. I can just offload really what I'm thinking I don't have to hide anything. I know she's not going to take it any further. I can just be me, and I'm quite happy with that.
Were you nervous about seeing her for the first time? Or speaking to a professional, shall we say, in regards to...
I think I was. I'm just trying to think back. Yeah, I think I was, because it's something totally out of the blue, never done it before. So it was pretty scary. I do remember thinking, what am I going to talk to her about? Now I've booked it, I've got all this stuff, but what am I going to talk to her about? And I do remember I wrote a letter. I wrote it all down. It was almost like a letter, and I did give it to her. I think it was the first meeting, I handed her this piece of paper, and I said, right, this is what's going on. Okay. Because I thought, what if I don't say any of this? Or what if she thinks, well, she's not actually saying what I don't know. I was just in a panic, I suppose, about what I'm going to say to her, or if I'm going to sit there in silence. So I just handed her this paper. She read it, and we never looked at that piece of paper again, because I felt, well, she's actually genuinely interested. So I didn't need that piece of paper after that. But that was like my little lifeline there. That was my comfort blanket, I suppose, to have that on me.
I think I use that with clients that do struggle to come in and say what they're really thinking or what they're really feeling. So, give them that idea that they can write it down rather than have to verbalise it, and then hand it over so you can read it.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you did as a forethought. So
I think I see a lot of power in writing things down. I don't do it a lot anymore because I don't need to, but back then I was writing a lot of journaling, a lot of what ifs and I can't do this, and it just like I said, it's rumination, and it was just pen to paper all the time. So that was my go-to to think to write to her.
Wow. Okay, so with regards to your training, you've obviously done, as we said, your level 2, your level 3.
Yeah.
Were you nervous about doing your level 4?
Yes, very. Because it's a really big step from the 2 to the 3. It felt like a big step, but 3 to 4, it just felt, oh my gosh, I'm going into a diploma, and you've got to start placement hours. You've got to do 100 hours within the 2 years of diploma. You have to really go out, well, I had to go out of my comfort zone majorly to put myself out there to seek a placement and feel that I would be good enough to offer my skills that I've learned so far through counselling studies, throughout the counselling years. So that, I was ever so nervous.
Yeah.
And again, meeting the group in the counselling room, because we didn't know each other and it was quite scary.
I remember it well.
Yeah, it's very daunting, and you're going to be talking to each other about really in-depth things, and what if they don't like me? What if my honesty is too much? So very scary.
Yeah.
Very nervous.
With your diploma training, what sort of things did you do to sort of prepare you for working out in the real world with real clients to get your 100 hours done?
Okay, so throughout the diploma, but starting back from, intro, I suppose, introduction into counselling, we started doing kind of a bit of skill work, and it's carried on throughout the years. So throughout the entire counselling studies that we've done at college, you've always had your skills sessions where you put into practice the kind of theory-based techniques and concepts that you've learned at college during the lessons. So you'd go off and into your confidential safe space rooms, and you would have 3 of you in there. One of you would be the trainee counsellor, one of you would be the client, and then you'd have somebody else observing and kind of taking reflective notes to give you a bit more insight into what could be better, what's gone well. So throughout all of it, we have done these skill sessions and to put into practice what we've been learning throughout the courses, and that's been absolutely key to be able to go out into placement. Going through contracting, asking appropriate questions, open-ended questions, silence. Silence was a big thing for me. I didn't like sitting in silence, and now I can really appreciate the importance of allowing that space to just sit and not feel that void, because that's when sometimes the emotion can come out and be realised. Throughout all of it, it's obviously been the written work, the learning from the tutors in the classroom setting, but a lot of it is also, half of it has been through skills sessions to actually do actual practical learning and get that constructive feedback from your peers, and a lot of reflective work for yourself is what you feel you're doing well in, and what you feel you need to work on. It's an ongoing process. Yeah,
it is. And it doesn't stop there either.
Good.
Obviously the podcast is around depression and anxiety as well, and I'm wondering, within the training aspect of the diploma and obviously the other courses that you've done, is there much training in and around working with anxiety and depression? Because out in the real world, everybody suffers with depression and anxiety at some point, and some more severe than others, but it's also a part of our daily lives as well anyway. But it can be where something's happened that's caused that higher level of depression and anxiety to have a greater impact on an individual's life, where it's interrupted how they function, how they focus, how they feel, whether they leave their own home and things like that. So depression and anxiety fundamentally is where all of our work lies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
When it comes to the training, what sort of things do you go through that would help you prepare for working with depression and anxiety?
Well, I would essentially say pretty much all of it, I suppose. I mean, we've had set tutorials where it has been about depression and anxiety, and following on from that, what it can lead to. But I feel essentially it's all kind of based around that, because it really is at the heart of day-to-day life, like you kind of just mentioned it. There's anxiety in a lot of things, whether it's starting a new job, moving house, I don't know, feeling overwhelmed in something. There's a lot. It doesn't have to be, this is just what I feel, an anxiety that has to be a big thing.
Yeah.
It can be something small for people, and depression. But so going back to college, I would say through the theories, learning about the existential, the person-centred, and even Gestalt, like being able to understand and sit with somebody, to really just be there and hold that space with them, alongside them. And if they were to bring up, you know, it's not necessarily that somebody's going to say, oh, I've got the depression, or I've got anxiety, or I've got both, because we don't really necessarily say that to people, do we? I've got depression and anxiety, please help me, because sometimes we don't recognise that.
No.
So it's through being person-centred, I suppose, that you can pick up on those things with people and go through that journey with them, I suppose, that self-awareness.
When it comes to you learning, you mentioned person-centred.
Yeah.
What exactly is person-centred? What is that when it comes to counselling and therapy?
So person-centred, I feel, is at the actual heart of every counsellor, any kind of counselling offered. So it's being with the person, being with your client, being authentic with them, so being just who you are, not putting on any airs or graces for somebody. I am who I am. So welcoming somebody in that kind of nature, being non-judgmental, having that safe space where that person knows that it's not going to go any further. They can open up and talk to you. Obviously, we've got to think of kind of the duty of care aspect, but that it's a safe, positive, safe space for somebody to open up. So, but just being as well client-led, so that I'm not going to come in and say, well, last week you spoke about this, let's carry on talking about that, because that might be totally different for the client for the next week, which it certainly was in my counselling. You know, it really is about what that person wants to bring to you in that moment is what I will go with. That's what person-centred feels like for me. It's very much, client is at the heart of it. How they want the sessions to go is how they will go. And there's going to be no judgment from me whatsoever, because we're all so different and we've all got stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking about that and the training. How difficult did you feel you find it to go from that triad or that controlled environment with other therapists that you're working with to go out into the real world and working with your first client?
Oh gosh, the nerves. I can feel the nerves now when I'm just thinking about it. And I still get them now, actually. Absolute, just terrified. What, you know, all the questions, you know, imposter syndrome kind of comes to mind. I'm not going to be good enough. They're going to expect a master in kind of every theory, every therapy. They're going to expect me to know everything. What if they say something that I don't understand? What if I ask a closed question? What if I say the wrong thing? It was just all whirling through my mind. What if that person doesn't want to book in with me again?
So that perfect idea of what anxiety really is, isn't it?
There you go. I had that full-on anxiety about it. Yeah.
That worry and that panic as to, am I really able to do this?
Yeah, pure panic and fear, and it still happens now. Which it's not as bad when I've seen the same person for a few times. It's still there.
Yeah.
And I recognise it, and I try and ground myself before a session and kind of, okay, it's going to be okay. But especially with somebody new, because I'm still very new at all of this, I'm still training. I still feel really that I'm not going to be good enough. And what if somebody says something to me and I don't pick up on it? Should there have been a word I should have picked up on? I need to be better. It's that, for me, it's that control thing where I need to be perfect.
Yeah.
I need to be more than good enough. I need to be 100% there for these people, like my counsellor was there for me. Anxiety around that, and the fear that comes with that. So I would say very nervous for my first ever time out of that skills session, realising, oh my gosh, I am on my own with somebody that's bringing real life. Although we do real life stuff in our skills sessions, we build up a very good rapport with our peers. We're all very good, I would say we're friends.
But it's all very controlled as well.
Very.
At any point you can sit there and say, I need to stop.
Yeah.
And you guys can swap around and change things up.
And you've got that backup, so you can swap things up, and you can say stop, and you've got that backup that they know you're a trainee and they know that you're not going to be able to fix everything there and then, because that's not what we do anyway. We're not fixers. We're there to kind of enable the open questions and reflective feedback to people so they can gain their own awareness. But not having somebody there sitting with you going, oh, actually, this could have worked better, or saying to the client, oh, do you mind if I just stop there a minute? I need to get a bit more information from somebody. It's very scary. You're on your own.
So with that in mind, how did you feel when you went from classroom to, shall we say, reality, and working with an actual client for the very first time?
Daunting, extremely daunting. I think I don't think I lost sleep over it, but extremely fearful that I'm going to mess up. But especially also, obviously being in placement, that's all new in itself, and you have to kind of figure out the computer system, and I've got to get there in plenty of time to log in. What if my login details don't work? Everything like that goes through your head, because you want to make sure that you've got everything, the room right, the light right, is there a drink on the table? Everything had to be, and it still does, everything's got to be right. But saying hello to that very first client, wow, and just talking to yourself in your head, just breathe, and then just remembering your skills, what you've learnt at college. Just sit with this person. You don't have to be any more than that at this point. You're training. Just sit with them and listen, and do what you've been taught to do throughout the years of training, and that's give your time and ask the appropriate open questions and paraphrase. It was just sitting and being in that moment with that client in their frame of reference.
So how did it feel when your first session was over?
I think a huge relief. From my point of view, I think it went well. I hope it does from the clients, but I can't answer on that behalf. But from my...
Did they come back?
Yes, they
so
did, luckily. I was relieved that they booked in again, because then that was the fear after, oh my gosh, what if they don't book back in again? They haven't said that they want to book back straight in again, but so I felt it went really well. I managed to stay in their frame of reference. I managed to, I feel, kind of stay in that professional role, but also be a human. Because I don't know whether or not people see this, but counsellors, maybe, they can fix everything. They might, but I didn't feel with that client that I felt like that. I think the build up to it was worse than what it actually was, because I really enjoyed it. I think it was really good. I was very lucky.
Sounds like it's a wonderful first time experience.
Yeah, I was very lucky. It's good that the placement, obviously, that I'm in is really reassuring, and you can kind of go through any of your own worries with your manager, just to get that kind of reassurance that, okay, is this all right? So that's a great relief, in all honesty. So it went well, thank you.
Do Did you find there was any surprises when working with clients and realising that depression, anxiety really is fully part of the work?
Yeah, I think there's this whole thing of I feel like I've had depression and anxiety in my life.
Yeah.
And you almost feel alone with it. You know that other people must have it, and unless your friends or something talk about it with you, that they feel like utter rubbish one day and it's been like it for a while. Nobody else talks about it, because why would they? You're not going to go up to a random person on the street and say, oh, my life sucks, or anything like that. So with clients, being able to just talk about their anxieties, they're feeling down, they're feeling low, they've been feeling like it a long time. It's like, wow, this is so normal. This is such a normal feeling, yet you almost feel so alone in it because others might judge you, might think that you're making a mountain out of a molehill. So being with clients through kind of their anxieties or depression, I feel happy that I can be there for them, to be able to actually just talk to somebody about it, because that's huge.
Yeah.
You don't get that choice, that chance, or not everybody gets that chance to have somebody just listen to them. Yeah, so it's lovely.
So very early on, how do you build that trust, that rapport with the new client that you're working with? They may be afraid or worried about opening up for the first time, and never having been able to do that, and share their mental health struggles.
Okay, so I feel again it's just important to recognise that I'm just going to be me, so I'm not going to put on any, and not go in all fires blazing, guns blazing, as in, right, here's a contract, here's this. It's very just gentle.
Yeah.
I'd say a very gentle introduction into, I like to say a little bit about who I am, that I'm a trainee counsellor, and give a bit of my background. And during that I might mess up and say, oh goodness, I forgot where I was going there, or just, I am human, and just a kind of gentle, okay, so what brings you to counselling? What would you like to talk about? Again, that's being client-led right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And if there's certain things that somebody will say to me and then they kind of close up or say, oh, I don't want to go there, that's absolutely fine. I kind of would like to think that I would reassure, and I feel like I do that. That's okay. If you want to talk about that another time, we can. We're going at your pace. So I like to just think, I like to think I'm quite gentle in my approach, and convey that, with that, we'll just talk about whatever you need to in that moment, in each session. That's absolutely fine. And if there's things that I'm missing, please, bring that to my attention, not a problem. Which I feel is important, because as a trainee, and probably even as a counsellor, there's going to be things that I can imagine I might miss if somebody's talking about it.
Absolutely.
So I like to do like a check-in every few sessions, just say, how's it going? Is there anything that we've not explored which you'd like to? Just so it's offering again that kind of openness, transparency, that I might have missed something, and I'm sorry, and please feel free to tell me.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about. It's their time.
When it comes to your clients, can I ask how many have you seen now since you started working with clients?
I've seen 4 people, 4 different clients, yeah. One who's been quite regular, which has been lovely.
Yeah.
Had quite a few sessions. Two I've seen 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And one I've seen once. So I did have a little bit of fear around that, kind of, what did I do wrong? They haven't booked back in with me, and all that goes along with that, I wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome.
Very much so, much so. So I did spoke to my supervisor about that, because because obviously as part of the training as well, you have your supervision even once you're qualified. You have your supervisor to make sure you're kind of keeping on top of your best practice and stuff. And I spoke to her, I was like, this person hasn't booked back in, I wonder if I wasn't good enough. And it was all my own fears that I was just overthinking everything. But to this day this person hasn't booked in again, and that's okay. Maybe this person wasn't ready for it, or I wasn't the right person for her, and that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's just about recognising that, isn't it, and being able to reflect on that.
Yeah.
And not everybody, like I said at the beginning, when I was looking for a counsellor, I looked at this one person and I thought, yeah, she's got that face. And I read her bio and I thought, yeah, I like her. So, you know, if I'd met her and it didn't go well, I would have looked for someone else, and that would have been okay. She would have suited someone else, but perhaps not me, so that's fine.
So you mentioned supervision as well a minute ago.
Yeah.
How does supervision play a part in the work that you do in therapy and counselling?
It plays a really big part. It's like having kind of, I hope it's okay to say, like that third person with you, just kind of holding me in a way. To talk to, obviously it's all confidential still, but
so there's no client name?
No client details, no information about the client. It's all anonymous.
Yeah.
But it's just a chance for me to speak to my supervisor once a month for an hour and a half about how I feel sessions are going, if there's anything that I feel I'm finding challenging, that I feel that I need a little bit more information on or a bit of guidance on, then my supervisor will offer, a bit of feedback, and a lot of the times it's about how I feel about a situation and how I can become more aware of my own thoughts and feelings with regards to something.
Yeah.
But it's about that kind of, that monthly check-in with me to make sure I'm continuing on best practice, that I'm putting myself and clients' needs at the, it's the foremost, isn't it? It's the most important thing, to make sure both parties are safe and getting what the client needs from the sessions. So supervisor is key really for, like I say, obviously ongoing as a counsellor. Every counsellor should have a supervisor.
Yeah.
And it's key to keeping on top of your competencies, on top of good practice, and for further knowledge, isn't it? So make sure that you can kind of give the best that you can to your clients that see you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say supervision is a great relief to have that. It's like, like I say, it's almost like a bit of a safety in a way for me.
Yeah, support for you and your clients.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, which is lovely. It's a nice thought to know that that's available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to your well-being and your own emotional well-being and that side of things as a therapist, do you feel it's key to have therapy for yourself?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Like I said, I still do see my counsellor. Obviously, part of that is because of needing to ensure that I deal with all my stuff before speaking, being a trainee counsellor and qualifying.
Yeah.
But I feel ongoing, I will always speak to my counsellor as and when needed for my own emotional support and for my own confidence, my own self-awareness, my own just understanding myself better, ongoing, as I'm, we're always changing, aren't we?
Yeah.
Our brains are always kind of going in different directions, life goes in different directions, so she's really important for me to stay grounded and to make sure I'm the best that I can be in myself, and that any troubles, I know I've got her to be able to work through them, not rely on her, but because I can rely on my own judgments and that now, which is great.
Yeah.
But I feel ongoing, I will use a counsellor to make sure that I'm basically tip-top condition, to make sure that I'm...
So you're in the right space?
Yeah, in the right space to be able to then provide that support for other people. Yeah, I think it's very important.
So you've got supervision and your own therapy to help maintain and manage your own mental well-being.
Yeah, definitely. It's very important. Again, we're all human. We've all got stuff that goes on behind closed doors and things, and life happens, doesn't it? So it's important to stay on top of your own mental health, isn't it? Which is what I've learned again through the counselling journey so far. How much self-awareness that I have got now about who I actually am, and that I'm okay with who I am now.
Yeah.
Before this journey, before having counselling, I felt like I was just living for other people in a way, but now I can put boundaries in, and I can say no, and I can do kind of what I want to do rather than feeling the need to please people.
That sounds very important with boundaries and being able to say no.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to clients and client work as well.
Going forward, I've spoken to my manager about that recently, about kind of what to do if a client reaches out outside of the sessions, and how obviously you don't want to be that kind of crutch for somebody, do you? The session is that a counsellor is for that session, for when you've got something booked for that hour, and what to do outside of that if they were to contact you for support via, I don't know, a voicemail, a phone call, or a message. So it's that boundary, isn't it? And I feel through having counselling I can be more aware of, well, actually I'm okay with putting a boundary, and I know that I have to, for my own sanity, basically, my own mental health, because you can't have everything impacting on your life, really, can you?
No.
Yeah.
Sounds like there is some challenges there when working with clients, or setting boundaries and being able to say no when needs be. What other challenges do you feel that you've experienced starting with clients and doing the client work?
I think probably just that's probably the big one for me at the moment. This is one that's come up recently, that boundary, receiving a message about wanting some support in that moment. And obviously I've got a personal phone and I've got my counselling phone, so it's all very separate. And obviously for confidential reasons I think that's very important, but knowing how to step back from being, although that you're still the trainee counsellor in that the messages, it's about realising this isn't actually a session. This is, okay, I can support you in signposting, or making sure that you're safe by again signposting, that kind of thing, and maybe book an appointment if needed. But it's very difficult because your human side wants to say, how are you, what's kind of going on. That's and essentially that's what we've been taught all these years, isn't it? How are you, what's going on for you, let me help you. And that's obviously why we go into counselling. That's what we want to do with people. So it's very difficult to be so boundaried in the fact of, I can't respond and say, would you like to talk? Because then obviously, outside of sessions, am I then becoming more of a friend rather than that safe space in those moments? So it's very tricky. That's what I'm finding a bit tricky at the moment to navigate through.
That's a very different relationship to something that you would have with a friend or even a colleague, where that sort of friendship sort of side of things comes in. So it's very, very different.
Very, and I've not ever had to kind of deal with this before. So it's going to be a learning curve for me again. But that's where my agency manager, my supervisor, that is where you need that extra support for yourself as a trainee, and hopefully when I qualify, it's going to be always when you as a counsellor, it's seen as a solo career, and you're on your own, but actually behind the scenes you can't be.
No.
because you need the support from others in the profession to help guide you through and to realise, you know, what's going on for you, what you can give and actually what you shouldn't, to keep yourself safe. Yeah.
So talking about keeping yourself safe, so when it comes to working with and engaging with clients in sessions and they're hurting and they're in pain, how do you manage that as, you know, not just a counsellor but as a human being as well, seeing somebody else in pain, dealing with that professionally? What's the impact that can go with that for you as a student therapist?
Okay, so the impact, so I suppose you kind of feel it with them. If somebody's bearing their heart to you and you can see and feel how emotionally tiring and upsetting it is for them, you do feel it with them, don't you, in that moment, in that room, because like you say, you're human, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you know, you pick up on that, especially kind of when you're being, you know, empathic and everything. You feel and pick up on those emotions. But I suppose being able to deal with that, obviously in the moment, staying within the client's frame of reference, and you know, I can be honest and say I can really feel that. You know, I can be open and transparent because I think that's very important. But afterwards, if I feel it was going to kind of affect me, or that, you know, it's really upset me, or anything that's come out about that, I would book in to speak to my supervisor.
Okay.
To be able to speak, again, with no identifiers at all about the client, but how I felt about that.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want that to kind of carry on for me, because that's the, you know, the client's world, not mine, and I need to be counsellor, not
friend, best friend,
yeah,
family member.
yeah. I need to be able to keep that. Again, it comes back to that boundary, doesn't it? But I'm sure there is going to be things that people say to me, and it probably will kind of strike a chord with me. I'm sure it's going to happen. But again, that's where my own support network is going to come into play.
Yeah.
And I recognise how important that's going to be in going forward in anything, having that support to reach out to when needed.
So when it comes to, you know, the clients, when they've got depression, anxiety, you know, that's always in the background anyway. When clients come in, you know, there's going to be elements of depression there and anxiety as well, and obviously at different levels. How do you look to help the clients that are in those kinds of stress? What sort of ways do you help the clients manage those kinds of difficulties?
Obviously, definitely through talking through what they're thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
Offering that listening ear, which, you know, is essentially what we're learner skills all throughout the training, is listen. The power in listening to somebody is huge. So start off by being 100% with them, listen to what's going on for them.
So allowing the client to be heard.
Yeah, definitely.
Let them know that they're being heard.
Yeah, so important, because people sometimes aren't heard, especially if you're talking to a friend or something. You both cut into each other.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is so normal, isn't it? But yeah, I'll allow them to be heard, which is, from my point of view, is the first step to actually feeling accepted.
Yeah.
No judgment, no criticism, no nothing, just allowing them to get those thoughts and feelings out, and working through it with them, you know, by going on that journey with them, talking, listening, and going from there, really.
So allowing the client to be heard, for them to share their story and their life with you, and not have that judgment or those interruptions that you would normally have when you're talking to friends and family.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think a lot of that is missing in life, which, you know, it's normal, isn't it? That's what friends and family are. You all interrupt each other, and you've all got so much stuff to say to each other, but when you are feeling depressed or anxious, sometimes being heard can be a good start to that healing or understanding on a deeper level of why you might be feeling like that.
Yeah.
And what's going on, and begin to understand, and so that then you can move forward, hopefully. Yeah.
And that's the start of the healing process, being able to be heard.
Yeah. Which again, you know, I can relate that you know, this is why I strongly believe in it, that feeling of listening to someone. That's exactly what my counsellor done with me. She didn't jump in, she didn't say, well, I think, or right, what you need to do is this, or she had no input apart from listening and asking questions to find out more.
Yeah.
Which enabled me then to give more and then be like, oh, as I was talking, I'd be thinking, well, I never realised that. But it was just from her being with me and going deeper and deeper, you know, with questions at my pace, that I was able to recognise that actually what I thought was going on isn't. It was something else that I was really upset with. It was amazing. So that's how I think working with somebody, that's what it's all fundamentally about.
Absolutely.
Being heard. Yeah.
So as a new therapist yourself, a new counsellor, is there any advice that you would give other therapists that may be listening today? What would you share with them to help put them at ease in regards to working with clients for the very first time?
I would say if you're going on to your diploma, your level 4, your last few years, I would say you've done so much training already, you probably don't even recognise how much you've done, because even to now I don't really recognise it. Even with the learning reviews, the coursework that we get set, I kind of overthink it because we've been taught so much throughout the years of it's been quite repetitive. The fundamental skills, the fundamental theories, but it becomes second nature. You change and you grow as a person with that. So I would say you know everything that you're doing, and listening is the biggest key, which is what you've been taught for all these years already. You've been taught all of that. It's just in a room without that third person giving you any feedback, basically. And
trusting yourself?
Yeah, trusting yourself. And I think it's okay if you think you're not going to be good enough. I mean, I still feel it now. But I suppose that's because we're striving to be good. We're striving to be the best that we can be for people, which is why we're probably counsellors. We're always wanting to do better, always wanting to help. So I'd say just go with your gut. Go with, you know who you are. You've done so well to get to this point that you're on your way. So just embrace it as much as you can. And even with the nerves. Yeah. Those nerves.
Okay, so we're going to be wrapping things up in a few minutes as well. So my last question, the diploma, becoming qualified, is it just going to end there, or do you have any other aspirations in regards to where you want to go with all of this as a therapist?
Yeah, so I really don't want it to just end there. So at the beginning of this journey, so when I first started 4 years ago, and I'd finished my counselling, and I had those light bulb moments, and I realised I want to be a counsellor. I had it in my head, and I've had it in my head ever since starting, and I can see it, a little kind of, my own little room is, and I can see it in my head. It's all decorated, it's all pretty, it's all quite just whites and a few colours, candles, that kind of thing. I I've always wanted to set up my own little private practice, or even if there was kind of joint venture where you could work with somebody as a counsellor. But I realised where we are, we're quite remote in living, so that might not be an option. But I do want to do something with it. I do want to be a counsellor. I want to keep it going. I don't want it to be end of diploma and that's it. I'm not doing it, because I've worked really hard, and I feel, it sounds corny, I do feel like it's what I'm supposed to do in life.
Yeah.
Throughout my adult life, I've always questioned, what can I do as a career? What should I be doing? Everybody else knows what they're doing, and here I am plodding along, job to job. But this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is at my heart. I know 100%. This is me. So I will carry on.
That's a lot of training that you've gone through as well, and putting it into hindsight, you've gone through 4 to 5 years of training.
Yeah, it's a long
to
time.
Get to where you are now.
Yeah, it's a long time when you look back, and like you say, you kind of say person-centred or paraphrasing, or all these words now, and you think, God, years ago I wouldn't have had a clue what any of that means. Wouldn't have had a clue. But now it's kind of, well, Carl Rogers, or Gestalt. And although I might not know every single thing about it, because there's a lot to these theories, I know the fundamental skill set of it. And I definitely want to carry it on, and carry on with my professional development, and possibly go on to level 5 at some point, but that won't be for a while. I'd like to finish 4 and settle into being qualified, and hopefully progressing even further through there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining with us today and talking about your journey through therapy and counselling and being a student and qualifying next year.
Next year. It should be kind of July, August time.
Yeah.
Very excited.
There'll be no holds barred then.
Yeah, feel like I've got to actually put it all into practice then.
Okay, so for our listeners, as usual, we'll put links for support in the description for the podcast, and we've also got a Facebook group that people can join to if you've got any comments for further podcasts, and if you want to join in, absolutely fine, just get in contact. Till next time.
Thank you for having me.